What's up, y'all? TBrown31 here, back with JaboctheGreat. Welcome to another episode of The Last Word. Is anybody surprised about what happened on Saturday with Ohio State and Penn State? Are we surprised? No. All right, we kind of called this, and we didn't like to pat ourselves on the back too much. We called this. Ohio State gets yet another victory against Penn State. This time, 20-13, as Penn State once again loses another top 10 match.
Yeah, I mean, it just is like clockwork. I mean, last year this happened. Ohio State won 20-12. They turned it around this year. They win 20-13. Penn State got one more point out of this one. Um, it's just a kind of a crazy thing to see Penn State roll through the top of college football and then end up meeting another top team and come crashing down as usual. So we'll look at this on paper. It's not the craziest game, and it's exactly what we call it, right? Like these two teams, they don't score a whole lot in this game. It's a low scoring affair. Ohio State comes out on top. It's exactly what we assumed it would be. Maybe the only difference was that Penn State started pretty hot and then cooled off immediately after. So Ohio State had Will Howard go 60 for 24, 182 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, 1 fumble. Quinshon Judkins led the game on the ground with 95 yards. Travion Henderson was second with 54 yards. But they had no touchdowns on the ground game. Jeremiah Smith was the leader in receiving with 55 yards. But Brandon Smith, who had 33 yards, and Emeka Egbuka, who had 31 yards, had the 2 touchdowns from Will Howard. And then Davison Igbinosun picked off Drew Allar. Speaking of Drew Allar, let's turn to Penn State. He went 12 for 20, 146 yards, no touchdowns, 1 pick. Tyler Warren led the Lions here on the ground, 47 yards. Drew was second with 31 yards, so not a complete horrible day for Drew Allar. Nicholas Singleton, Tyler Warren, and Harrison Wallace III all made up the air game, but there were no offensive touchdowns. So Singleton had 54 yards, Warren had 47, Harrison Wallace had 55 yards, but no touchdowns for them. However, the game started with Zion Tracy, or essentially started with Zion Tracy getting a 31-yard pick six. Had Penn State up and rolling. Looked like there was going to be a different story than previous years. All of a sudden you got a 10-0 lead essentially, and then boom, Ohio State scores. The answer is 10-7, and well, Penn State wouldn't do anything else until they hit a field goal late in the game, or not late in the game, in the third quarter, to maybe kind of fight back. I mean, they put it in reach, but it doesn't end up mattering. 13-17 for a long time, and then Ohio State makes it 20-13 and takes it away. So just like we said it would be. That's probably about all my thoughts on this. I thought that Penn State is a good football team, but you can't trust them in these big games, especially not against Ohio State. And it's probably always going to be, one of these low-scoring affairs where they just kind of really hate each other, and that's what we got.
Yeah, man, it's honestly almost like darn near embarrassing how we keep having this conversation over and over, and the fact that we pretty much kind of called the score. I don't remember exactly what we said, but I specifically remember saying like Ohio State's at least 7 points better, and here we are. We're a low scoring game again, like last year, like you said, just one more point for Penn State, and I thought we were gonna have to eat our words. Those first few drives, man, they went up. They went up the field like it was nothing on that first drive. Didn't pass it or anything really for the most part. Um, outside of that one big pass to Singleton, like it was run, run, run. Drew was running a little bit. I mean, he was getting some first downs. So and I was like, man, okay, that was a pretty good drive, at least in the round. And then obviously the Will Howard interception, I have no idea what Will Howard was doing on that interception, man. Like he telegraphed it all the way. I mean, he was like, I'm gonna throw it exactly right here. And if he gets intercepted, it is what it is, and that's exactly what happened. They took it back, and it was 10-0 Penn State, and I'm like, man, this might be the year. And Penn State in Penn State fashion, they do what they do. And look, man, if Will Howard, once again, 'cause I'm not gonna act like this is like all his fault on this one. Obviously, he fumbled, but it was a great play by the defender. So I'll give the defender more credit than blame for Will Howard. But if it wasn't for that fumble, man, I mean, it would have been 21-10 to Ohio State, going into halftime. And it was like, just after two drives, Penn State, I mean, they clearly just did not have no offense, could not throw the ball down the field. I mean, really, It's just a horrible display of offense. And that was kind of the Penn State that we saw, a lot of last year, offensively, not doing too much. Drew Allen not really being able to move the ball. And you come into this game, you have such a good drive on the ground, but then when you really need to pass it, for the most part, you couldn't get it done. Um, and you had opportunities in the red zone, by the way. It's not like they never got it down. But right at the end of the half, you had a chance to get a touchdown. Instead, it ends up being a pick, which is crazy. And it was a great interception because at first, the initial thought was, oh, this is going to be a, review of whether the receiver is able to stay in bounds and, control the ball, take it all the way to the ground. And we're like, no, that's an interception. So they take away points there. Um, and then at the end, of the game, basically, because Ohio State literally ran the ball out for the last 5 minutes, which is hilarious because they were on their own. They were on their own 1 yard line. They were able to run the ball out with 5 minutes left. So maybe that says something about Penn State's defense too there. And but that turnover on downs, you had four chances, excuse me, from either the 3, the 2, or the 1 yard line. Run, run, run. Obviously not working. Then you get a pass and it goes nowhere, incomplete. It's like if Penn State just had a sprinkle of offense in this game, and maybe one or two of those, plays go the other way, maybe they do win this one. But that's on them. I mean, it's the same crap every single year with them, and it's not just Ohio State. But until they can beat Ohio State or a team like this, like nobody's really going to take them seriously. Even if they do make the playoffs, right? Because it's just one loss. Nobody's really going to take them too seriously when it comes to the playoffs.
Yeah, they're gonna need a big playoff victory, I think, as the season goes on to really prove people right. Obviously, they're gonna need a big playoff victory to win the national championship. But yeah, I think it's just kind of crazy how each year we've talked about these type of games, these Penn State big moments, and they kind of do the same thing every time. I mean, this one, Ohio State definitely has some moments where they're handing it to Penn State, and Penn State just kind of seems to hand it right back. To throw the pick right before the half, which is it's tough. It's definitely that's not on Drew, by any means. That's just a tough one. Um, and then to get down at the end of the game and first of all to turn it over on downs and then to have 5 minutes of football where Ohio State does nothing but run the ball and they go 40 yards with the same play over and over again. It's a little tough. Makes Penn State look a little weaker. The offense definitely doesn't look as sharp. Defense looks not amazing either, and they don't allow Ohio State to score like that much. But it's still a pretty bad look. So definitely a little tough for these teams. Puts both of them at a bad spot in the conference. Not a horrible spot, but now you're firmly you got Indiana and Oregon sitting over the top of you over in that conference. Now Penn State, you've got Ohio State over you as well. So definitely not what Penn State wanted. I'm sure they would have loved to been 8-0 and be 8-0 in the or 1-0 in the conference or sorry 5-0 in the conference. But it doesn't work out that way. Ohio State gets their big conference win after a big conference drop to Oregon and puts themselves back in that little title race. So this was a fun matchup. I think I would have always preferred Penn State to steal this one, but it just feels like it's inevitable that Ohio State will come out and probably play just like this and take a 20-12, 20-13. Maybe next year it'll be 20-14. So stay tuned. Eventually it'll be 2021.